Ahead on NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
On this week's special edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman, a look at the winners of the 2012 Environmental Stewardship Award Program.
And now, a special edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman with host Kevin Oxner.
Hello and welcome to this week's special edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. I'm Kevin Oxner. Thanks for joining us. Commitment to the industry and the environment. Those are just two of the qualities cattlemen and women from across the country share. And each year, NCBA honors 7 farms and ranches that go above and beyond in demonstrating these values. In this week's episode, we're visiting the winners of the 2012 Environmental Stewardship Awards. Let's have a look. Environmental stewardship. It's something every cattleman pays close attention to. And for 21 years, the Environmental Stewardship Award Program has recognized farms and ranches across the country for their outstanding commitment to preserving land and wildlife. Over the next several weeks, we'll be bringing you the stories from all 7 of this year's regional winners. And this week, we begin our series with a Region 1 winner from Round Hill, Virginia.
You'll find Glen Owen Farm at the foot of the Blue Ridge Mountains in Virginia. The Thomas family has owned this operation for more than 2 centuries, and their cattle have been recognized by the American Angus Association as an historic herd.
Glen Owen Farm was first started when they moved here from Pennsylvania in 1784. It's been in the family ever since.
We currently farm 800 acres. We have 275 cattle, 120 females, 20 bred heifers. Principally, over time, we have sold registered Angus bulls to local commercial cattle producers in the 3-state area.
Glen Owen Farm sits just 60 miles from downtown Washington, D.C., so urban encroachment has become an issue. Several years ago, the Thomas family made a long-term commitment to preserve their farm by placing it in a permanent conservation easement, which forever protects the land from development.
We're in a beautiful part of the country, but a rapidly urbanizing part of the country. We're using a management strategy and a family ownership perpetuation process to ensure this farm remains a Thomas farm for many generations to come.
What the conservation easements do first and foremost is they preserve the land base. So once you've got the land base conserved so that it isn't going to grow houses, then it opens up a lot of possibilities.
With the conservation easement in place, the Thomas family then worked with the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service to develop a 10-year best management practices plan. One key aspect of the plan was to put in place systems to reduce the amount of runoff that enters ponds and streams. This included a nutrient management plan for the cropland, as well as installing over 5 miles of fencing to protect surface water from access by livestock.
There are many environmental challenges in the area that we operate in. The one that overshadows all of them is the responsibility to keep the Chesapeake Bay clean. Our water here falls into the Chesapeake Bay watershed, so we're very mindful of the effluent from our farm, animal manure, fertilizers in the field, getting into the streams and into the Chesapeake Bay.
It feels good because the Chesapeake Bay is really important and it's really pretty, and I really want to be a part of its conservation. We want to keep it good so all the animals in there can survive.
For the thousands of people that travel this road every day to look across that bottom and see new fences, that there's not cattle in the streams, that the water's clean, it's a great model. It's a great model for agriculture.
In addition, the Thomas family added new systems for getting water to cattle in pastures where it wasn't available before. With the new water systems, Glen Owen Farm was able to implement a new pasture management program, which includes rotational grazing.
We have, over the last couple of years, significantly upgraded our fencing infrastructure to enable a rotational grazing system. This has enabled us to increase the grazable land on the farm. We've increased our herd size to make the farm more productive. We've also seen, by making water more readily available and in better quality, the conception rate of our cattle have improved, both on the AI and on the bulls that are siring calves on the farm.
It's certainly in the future going to benefit us, cut down on our workload, cut down on inputs, cut down on machinery cost. Of course, if the cattle have fresh water and green grass and a fence to hold them in, those are 3 main objectives right there.
We're very pleased with what we've accomplished here in the way of our stewardship initiatives. But I can tell you, the more that we invest, the more ideas that we get about future strategies of conservation.
The property also provides habitat and safe shelter from urban sprawl for a variety of wildlife. All of the stewardship efforts of the Thomas family help to ensure that the family farming legacy of Glen Owen Farm will continue for future generations.
It's been in the family a long, long time, and I heard a saying not long ago that no success without a successor, and I think we've got a lot of successors coming on.
It feels good because I know that I'm a part of something much bigger than myself, and it's been in my family for a lot of generations, and my grandfather and my dad have been working really hard on it, and it makes me feel like I'm a big part of something that has been around not just in my lifetime, but a long time before that.
I view environmental stewardship as both a gift and a responsibility. I look at the farm here at Glen Owen and have a sense of gratitude for my ancestors who've presented this to me. At the same time, I feel a huge responsibility to continue its upkeep, to perpetuate the family ownership, and to ensure the quality of the land for our use and for those around us remains of supreme quality.
We'll be bringing you the profile of a different winner each week here on NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. To learn more about the ESAP program or to see profiles on past winners, just visit our website at cattlemantocattleman.org. The Environmental Stewardship Award Program has been honoring families across the country who demonstrate what it means to take care of their land and the wildlife. E.L. Strickland of Circle Square Ranch is this year's Region 2 winner of the ESAP Award. Cattleman to Cattleman reporter Scott Hoke takes us to his ranch in Ocala, Florida, to show us how he's being a good environmental steward of the land.
Here's something you don't see every day: grazing land right next to retirement homes. Both the Circle Square Ranch and the nearby neighborhoods are owned by On Top of the World Communities, a real estate company owned by the Colon family. The man responsible for managing the cattle and caring for the ranch is E.L. Strickland, who has called this part of Florida home for his entire life.
We're what is known as a cow-calf operation, and we use only 2 types of bulls. We use Hereford bulls and we use Bremer bulls. We have one purebred herd of Herefords that we breed the Bremer bulls to get that F1 tiger stripe cattle, which is so popular here in the southeast.
Circle Square Ranch raises 1,200 head of cattle on 9,000 acres of land. The nearby residents are proud to have the ranch as their neighbor and consider the cattle part of the community as well.
Circle Square Ranch is carved out of the middle of a huge development, and they're able to be right across the fence from obvious spectators and multitudes of eyes looking over their shoulder about what they're doing.
They like to think the cows are theirs. For instance, I had one lady in one pasture next to their houses. I have to rotate the cows, you know, and she stopped me. She said, "Where's my cows?" I said, I just had to take them to get them something to eat, but they'll be back as soon as the grass grows.
The grass is a key component of the ranch's success. Because of the sandy soil, the ranch uses grasses it can support, rather than trying to change the land with lots of soil amendments. In addition, the cattle are rotationally grazed to help preserve and protect the pastures.
We fortunately have enough land where we can move them, if no more than just 2 weeks, move them for 2 weeks and then rotate them back. It protects the vegetation and it protects the soil. Part of our rotation is renovation. We call it renovation. We have to renovate these pastures every 6 or 7 years, and what we do is we'll put them in peanuts, and that way we get all the lime and calcium that we need in the soil for years. and then we'll come back in the wintertime and we'll plant winter wheat for grazing. And when the winter wheat's gone, we'll put it back in peanuts for 2 to 3 years, and it just does a tremendous job. And then we'll go back and put it back in this Bahia grass. There's a tremendous root mass under this Bahia grass, and when we renovated it, it goes back into the soil. We've been renovating some of these pastures over 30 years, and they're more productive than the newer pastures.
Circle Square has no natural surface water sources. Water for the cattle comes from deep wells, while the retirement community supplies storm water and gray water for the crops. An abundance of wildlife calls the ranch home, including many protected and endangered species, such as the scrub jay and the burrowing owl.
When we started using wildlife biologists as consultants, you know, first thing, you know, they say, well, you know, you got a lot of wildlife. I say, yeah, we've been taking care of them forever. I mean, it's just natural.
Each of those listed species out here actually has a very viable population, and they're doing great. And I really think it's due to EL's management. And I really believe he's found that balance to have a great working landscape with the ranch and also allow the wildlife to have their place as well.
The ranch has also set aside 300 acres for gopher tortoises that are displaced due to construction of new homes.
Well, we have several areas fenced off when they do encroachment with development. We catch all the tortoises and we put them in these fenced areas, and that way they got a retirement home forever.
EL has devoted his career to making Circle Square Ranch a thriving cattle operation, while at the same time protecting Florida's native plants and wildlife. In 2008, he was selected Outstanding Rancher by the Florida Cattlemen's Association, and he's always willing to share his knowledge with other ranchers across the state.
We want the people around us to understand that we're in the cow business, but we're also environmentalists.
Not many people you meet are as forthright as EL is, and is so willing to show his operation and show his concerns. I remember in the early days, it was kind of a treat to get him to ride me around and show me what he was doing. They're the diamond in the rough, right here in the heart of Central Florida where development is king.
If you're going to be in the cattle business and run a ranch, you have to look at everything and protect it. I want to stay here and keep at it, and I'm going to keep all this wildlife intact and these cattle and all this rotation, and as long as I can go, I'll be here. We're nowhere near done. When I leave this place, however how I leave it, it'll be in good shape.
For more information about the Environmental Stewardship Award Program or to learn more about past winners, log on to our website at cattlemantocattleman.org. Taking care of the land is a way of life for many cattlemen and women across the country. But some go above and beyond to preserve it for future generations to enjoy. Funk Farms Trust is this year's Region 3 winner of the Environmental Stewardship Award. Reporter Scott Hoke has more from Shirley, Illinois.
The agricultural roots run deep on the Funk Farms Trust, located on the rolling prairie land of central Illinois. With a rich history dating back to 1824, Funk Farms is where hybrid seed corn was developed and has been home to both crops and cattle since it was founded more than 185 years ago.
Very long time. They used to drive cattle from here back to Pennsylvania, points east, and this was prior to Chicago being a major terminal livestock facility. And then once Chicago got started, they drove cattle and hogs 150 miles from here north.
Since 1970, Dan Coons has managed this diverse operation that grows corn, soybeans, and hay, grazes stocker cattle, and finishes cattle in a monoslope covered feeding facility.
We've got about 2,500 acres of ground here that we operate, 250 to 275 acres of grass that we run stocker cattle on. Also have a feedlot, a one-time capacity of 1,500 head. and majority of it is custom fed. However, our stocker cattle that we run during the summer, we feed those out ourselves.
This part of Illinois is probably one of the better spots to raise cattle. We've got an abundance of grass, corn, soybeans, especially for the feedlot operation.
We have used the livestock operation in conjunction with the cropping enterprise so that we pick up from the various synergies. One accentuates the other. We're able to utilize everything that we produce on the farm.
On Funk Farms, cattle and crops work together to create a healthy environment. Corn and soybeans provide feed and bedding for cattle, and the manure from the monoslope feeding barn is used to fertilize the next year's crops.
In the last 6-8 years, we have started composting that manure, and we've set aside roughly 10 acres of ground here that is our compost site. So we bring that manure out of the facility, put it in windrows, compost it, so it reduces the volume of material by about 50%. And that's been a big help. We put those nutrients back on the soil. We do sell a little of it to some neighbors and people that want to put it on their garden and so forth.
The monoslope barn provides a quality year-round environment for the cattle while eliminating any runoff. With 3 streams crossing Funk Farms, preserving water quality is a top priority. Each stream is protected by wide grass setbacks, keeping cropland far from the water's edge.
You know, the terraces and the grass waterways and the field borders and all that slows the water and really reduces the erosion.
Anytime that we can slow the water down off of our cropland, we can reduce the sediment load, we can reduce the nutrient load in those filter strips. The filter strip then utilizes that fertilizer, and therefore we're not having to fertilize our filter strips as much. It keeps it on the farm where we want it to stay.
To save soil, the team at Funk Farms also uses no-till and minimum-till cropping systems. And they use management-intensive grazing to help the grass and cattle thrive.
We're standing in a pasture right now. I've got 85 head running on management-intensive grazing. I've got 9 cells, 8 if you don't include the creek that is fenced out. I've got a creek running through the whole pasture. It's 100% fenced out. We flash graze the creek as needed, 24, 48-hour grazing across it.
They've implemented the rotational prescribed grazing system on their acreage and installed water lines and new fences to help make that come to pass and work better.
Funk Farms hosts groups and visitors interested in learning about the Funk family history, as well as how a modern, innovative Illinois crop and cattle farm operates.
The Funk family has always done that. We've always hosted tours and events, educational events for school kids and so forth. Have just always felt it's important to tell the story of agriculture.
Whether hosting visitors, tending the cattle, or protecting natural resources, the Funk Farms team takes pride in caring for the land every day.
Stewardship means to me the ability to maintain sustainably the ground that we work with.
We have been very conscious of that, and the Funk family has always been very conscious of the conservation of the land. They've been here a long time and see it as their duty to preserve it. I really feel proud of the fact that with this operation, we're doing just about all we can do to help the environment and the stewardship of the whole industry.
Dan and Kathy Coons are members of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, and there's never been a better time for you to join them as an NCBA member. If you join right now, you'll receive a free 100 milliliter bottle of Dectomax injectable from Pfizer Animal Health. And if you join NCBA as well as your state association, you'll receive a 200 milliliter bottle of Dectomax injectable. But you must join both at the same time to get in on this limited time offer. Joining is easy. Just give us a call at 1-866-USA-BEEF or email us at C2C@beef.org. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Preventing cattle pink eye is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Vaccinate your animals with Piligard Pink Eye TriView to provide pink eye fighting antibodies in the tears that bathe the eye. Broad spectrum protection that cross-reacts with 103 different strains of pink eye causing bacteria. 2. Stop the flies that spread pink eye bacteria throughout the herd. Apply double barrel VP ear tags and Ultra Boss Pour-On for up to 5 months of face fly and horn fly control. 3. Manage the environment to reduce damage to the animal's eye from seed heads, pollen, and UV light, irritants that increase the risk of pink eye infection. With the right tools, preventing pink eye is as easy as 1, 2, 3.
You're not responsible for the weather, just the cattle. And Rangeland works as hard as you do to deliver performance, production, and profitability. Cattle need consistent nutrition. They'll get it year-round with Rangeland products from Land O'Lakes. Deliver what they need free choice in weather-resistant loose minerals and mineral and protein tubs. Get the most out of your forage. See your Land O'Lakes Co-op for products that will stand up to whatever Mother Nature throws at us. Weather's coming in. Rangeland. Consider it done.
Welcome back. Each year, NCBA recognizes 7 farms and ranches that make environmental stewardship a top priority. 77 Ranch in Blooming Grove, Texas, comes from humble beginnings, but has grown into a large operation that takes pride in everything from their cattle to their grass. Cattleman to Cattleman reporter Scott Hoke has more.
In the cool of a Texas morning, Gary Price and his son Gary Lee are moving cattle. The 77 Ranch got its start 36 years ago when Gary and Sue Price acquired their first piece of land from a family friend.
The ranch actually has been put together through the years. We bought the first piece of property back in 1976 from a good old friend of mine named Lee Lowe. He was an old cowboy friend of mine I met first when I was 8 years old, and bought the first piece of property from him when he was beginning to get out of ranching.
The 77 Ranch is definitely a family operation. My husband and I and our son Gary Lee. I'm fortunate to be married to a husband that loves his job. Every day he gets up and he can't wait to get out and try to make things better.
The 77 Ranch has grown to nearly 2,500 acres today. Because Gary and Sue acquired it piece by piece, their land is in various stages of restoration.
Some of these areas that we know were cropped old fields, we've gone back in and we've reseeded those with native grass mixes and forbs. And some areas, all we've had to do is, through our rotational grazing system, be able to rest those a little bit, and those native grasses, the seed source was there, and then they've really responded well.
I think of Gary as a restoration specialist. We've been able to buy several different farms that joined us, and he could see the possibility that the land had.
Range management, my dad, I think that's, he just kind of has a knack for it. He's a natural at it. One thing he always told me, and I always go back to it, and when I'm out there, you take care of your grass and it'll take care of you.
Taking care of the grass paid off big in 2011 when the Price family faced extreme drought.
There was really nothing green at all throughout the summer, but we were able to get along and not cull anything. And again, we're able to wean all of our calves on schedule and precondition those and then sell them and improve in market, so that helped. But it just showed us the value of range health. I think the main reason they came through that drought strongly was because they left a lot of grass here when things were good, and they didn't try to take it all. They didn't try to mine all the nutrients out of the country.
Gary and Sue have done a great job to weather through the 2011 drought. They were able to get through the drought without selling any livestock, been able to maintain a pasture rotation, and here a year later we're seeing a lot of good responses from our good native grasses.
One key to weathering the drought was the big lakes and other water resources Gary and Sue have developed over the years. Those lakes have also added value by providing fishing and duck hunting income, as well as wildlife habitat.
What stands out to me is Gary and Sue's knowledge of the land, of the vegetation, of the wildlife, and how they make their choices towards managing the land to benefit the wildlife species and also produces a pretty profitable cattle operation at the same time.
Another key to improving the forage resources on 77 Ranch is brush control.
We like individual plant treatment because we're not disturbing the ground. We've got a lot of good native grass base here that we don't want to go in with a dozer and tear that up. So if we can do individual plant treatment, then we've kept that grass intact, and it's worked well for us. You know, Remedy and Diesel are a great product together that can absolutely do a tremendous job on mesquite, and mesquite would be our #1 brush problem.
The list of conservation projects on 77 Ranch is long. Gary worked with Ducks Unlimited to install a seasonal wetland. Land that once included a washed-out gully now produces a crop and turns into a valuable wetland each fall. And Gary and Sue share the story of ranching with visitors and school groups.
I have a belief that we need to share stewardship with younger people, and that's why it's so important to us to open our gates.
And we bring out 3rd and 4th graders and bring them out on the land from these urban areas, whether it be Dallas or even the Blooming Grove kids locally, and they come out, and we've tried to connect them to the land through the water that they drink and let them know that their water comes across some ranch somewhere.
The long-term future of 77 Ranch looks bright. Gary Lee is currently working on a ranch in West Texas, but the plan is for him to return home and continue the legacy of stewardship his parents have begun.
It's great that our son loves ranching as much as we do, and when he takes over someday, we'll be leaving it in very good hands.
We like to look at it as we're not trying to conquer this place and conquer this land, but to learn to get along with it, see what it's trying to tell us, and to pass it along certainly better than we found it.
To see the profiles of other regional winners of the ESAP Award, just visit our website at cattlemantocattleman.org. Leave the land better than when you found it. That's the motto many cattlemen live by each and every day. And one Montana family is living out their love for the land by taking steps to preserve the natural resources on their operation. Reporter Scott Hogue takes us to Montana to introduce us to the Region 5 winner of the Environmental Stewardship Award.
It's early morning and cattle are on the move at Bold Ranch in central Montana. For more than 3 decades, Robert and Annette Bold have been raising cattle, and their son Spencer and twin girls Alexandra and Reagan help them run things today. Both Robert and Annette are former teachers who decided to return to their ranching roots.
Both Robert and I grew up on a farm ranch, not too far from here, approximately 100 miles probably at the most. I think once ranching is in your blood, it's really hard to get away from it.
We run a cow-calf operation. In the past, we've been predominantly Angus. This is the first year we're doing any crossbreeding away from Angus using Charolais. On the feeder calf side, we do custom feeding. We also grow our own. On the small grain side, we raise wheat and barley. The grain goes into cattle feed. So the barley is not a cash crop. The wheat is. We're not wheat feeders. We grow cattle. We don't finish cattle here.
From the beginning, saline seep has been the biggest challenge for the Bolds. Their land contained over 400 acres that was almost unusable because of high salt content. The Bolds fought to reclaim the land by first spreading granular gypsum over the affected area, and then seeding a variety of plants that had high salt tolerance.
In 1980, we began to do reclamation work here. We didn't know exactly what we were doing because this was the introduction and discovery of technology on how to treat some of these areas. So we experimented with over 24 grasses, forbs, and legumes to find some that would take. But we've taken this from less than 10% cover to well over 90% cover, and for us it's become a productive area where you've gone from nothing other than snow white and the dust blowing in the summertime, like in July and August, to this type of a cover.
The soil itself, when Dad came here, Mom and Dad came here, it was really poor condition. And since then they've done a considerable amount to reclaim it with grasses and mosses and even different farming techniques to reclaim it, and it's worked out very well. They've increased their herd by a considerable amount.
Managing water is a priority in this part of Montana. No-till farming is one way to retain soil moisture, and Bold Ranch was one of the first in central Montana to adopt this conservation practice. They also partnered with NRCS on projects such as installing more than 11 miles of pipeline to supply water to pastures that had never been able to support livestock.
They're always willing to investigate and try new techniques and technologies that are out there. When you have a family like the Bold family who tries something new and is willing to work with the producers in the community, it helps gets that technology out there to test it and make sure it's something that's going to work in our environment.
Robert is a very forward-thinking individual. There's something new out there and he feels that it's beneficial. He is not afraid to try it. And I guess by the same token, neither am I. It's just kind of fun to share the information. If it works for us, it's kind of nice to help somebody else out too.
People will call our house and they'll ask for advice, and we'll help them any way that we can, or we'll give suggestions if we see something going wrong.
I always see someone call up and ask my dad, well, what do you think of this? Should I plant this? Or how did your triticale turn out? You know, what's your opinion on this? And he's always just willing to pass on knowledge. He just loves to share whatever he learns.
The efforts of the Bold family haven't just helped the ranch. The wildlife here is thriving as well. And from crops to cattle, water to wildlife, the Bold family takes whatever steps necessary to be as environmentally sound as possible.
The environmental stewardship is very important to our family. You can't gain anything from the land unless you keep it up the best that you can, and for future generations you have to try to keep it the best.
I find pride in being the fourth generation, that we've made it this far, and hopefully just keep being able to pass it from generation to generation.
It's kind of cool to carry on a family legacy. I don't think many families can do that, and so be able to pass it on is just something really special.
I think what we've accomplished in the time that we've been here, I'm just really happy with it.
We're just a steward here for such a short period of time. So you got to have that goal where you try to leave it so much better than when you got it. If you've done a good job, you've got something to leave the next generation.
The Bold family believes in the work NCBA does every day to protect their way of life. Won't you join them as members of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association? There's never been a better time to join. If you join right now, you'll receive a free 100 milliliter bottle of Dectamax injectable from Pfizer Animal Health. And if you join NCBA as well as your state association, you'll receive a 200 milliliter bottle of Dectamax injectable. But you must join both at the same time to get in on this special limited time offer. Joining is easy. Just give us a call at 1-866-USA-BEEF, or you can email us at C2C@beef.org. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Low financing, big implement bonuses. Now's the best time to save on the John Deere Compactor utility tractor you've been waiting for during the Green Fever sales event. Get big cash off at your John Deere dealer with the purchase of qualifying implements. Plus, you can enter online right now to win a new John Deere 3E or 5E series tractor at johndeere.com/greenfever. So get to your John Deere dealer today for the biggest deals of the year.
Tough trailers built for tough country. Big Ben Trailers manufactures a different kind of trailer, one that's built to put up with the rough conditions found on the ranch. Rugged build using heavy gauge powder coated steel and a 2x4 rectangle tube frame. There's a 1-inch gap between the side and floor, so there's no place for water or manure to accumulate and rust. Big Ben trailers are loaded with standard features: a lever action hitch, a 3-foot escape gate and a middle sorting gate, rhino lining along the front edges, and a receiver hitch to tow another trailer, chute, or other equipment. Tough and practical. That's Big Ben Trailers, designed and built by a working cattleman. You can rely on and trust Big Ben Trailers for their durability and convenient features. Reasonably priced for any rancher to afford. For a list of dealers and other design features, visit BigBenTrailers.com. Big Ben Trailers, built cattlemen tough.
over 2 decades, the Environmental Stewardship Award Program has been recognizing farms and ranches across the country that strive for excellence when it comes to protecting the land. Cattleman to Cattleman reporter Scott Hogue tells us about the dedication one California operation has to responsible environmental practices.
Jack and Bev Sparrick work side by side in the care of their cattle and their land. Sparrick Livestock is a first-generation outfit that Jack started in 1964. Now they move their cattle between 4 ranch locations in California and Southern Oregon.
For us, it works a lot better to go from winter range in the San Joaquin Valley of California to summer range in the high country. We don't have to do any farming, we don't have to raise any hay.
It's a good place to raise cattle just because of the kind of forage that we have here and the fact that we're able to use it as a summer grazing operation along with a winter grazing operation in California. And the grasses here are very strong. The cattle do real well.
Sparrick Livestock operates on about 85,000 acres with a mix of owned, leased, and Forest Service lands. One area of focus is restoring streams. To do so, they've built rock check dams, carefully timed the grazing of riparian areas, reestablished native willows, and more.
One thing that we've done is we put in a lot of off-stream watering system, a lot of solar pumps, and redistributed the water away from the sensitive areas, away from the creeks. We find that the cattle would rather travel a ways to go drink out of a clean water trough than climb down a stream bank to get a drink out of the creek.
This is a great nesting area for wildlife habitat, and it just protects the whole riparian area here around the water base.
We have seen better water quality, better water quantity. The streams, instead of being deep, wide streams, are beginning to become deep, narrow streams, but deep water-wise, not deep bank-wise. And that's our goal.
Jack and Bev work with a variety of conservation partners to restore streams, control invasive juniper trees, and improve fish and wildlife habitat.
The upland habitats are improving both where we've done the juniper projects and outside of those. It's a change, a more structured cattle management scenario that's actually benefiting the wildlife populations.
They also pay close attention to the condition of their rangeland, rotating cattle frequently so the grass has time to put out new growth.
When you come right down to it, what we're doing is marketing our grass, our forage, through cattle. I mean, if we don't have good grass and clean water, we're not going to have very, very productive livestock.
They're conscientious grazers, don't just dump the cows and leave them. They have deferred grazing in certain fields that are where they know that there's ground nesting birds.
The upland game birds, they need the insects, they need the seeds, and they need open areas that are grazed to be able to forage. So it's a win-win for both wildlife and for the livestock grazing.
Perhaps most impressive, Jack and Bev and their partners in the Bar 1 Ranch led the way in California's Sierra Valley by putting in place a conservation easement.
We put a conservation easement on that ranch in 2002. We were the first ranch in the valley to do that. Since then, several of our neighbors have done the same thing. We had development potential, subdivision potential on that ranch, as it's only 35 miles from downtown Reno.
We're in the cattle business. We're not in the development business. There was a subdivision map on that ranch for over 700 homes, and we just didn't have a vision of having 700 homes on that kind of good rangeland.
The ranch like this, it's a little over 13,000 acres, is preserved forever, and it will always be a ranch and be left in open space, and as well as a ranch and habitat.
With one ranch protected, the Sparricks then helped found the Oregon Rangeland Trust and placed an easement on their Drews Valley Ranch. Now, 2 ranches in 2 states, totaling more than 24,000 acres, are under permanent protection. For Jack and Bev, that means their legacy and love of the land will live on.
Bev and I are both deeply concerned about caring for these ranches and our stewardship programs, and we like what we're doing. We like the way it's working for us, and we encourage our neighbors to do the same thing.
It does give us a good feeling to know that they'll remain cattle ranches. That's what's near and dear to our hearts, and hopefully will be a good potential for our family down the road to stay in the cattle business.
I love ranching. I love the cattle business. The worst thing I could think of would be get up in the morning with nothing to do. And by the same token, when I'm gone to the wild blue yonder, I'm expecting my children and grandchildren to be involved in running these ranches the same way.
To learn more about all of this year's regional ESAP winners or to see stories about past winners, just log on to our website at cattlemantocattleman.org. Commitment to the industry and commitment to the environment. Those are the qualities cattlemen and women from across the country all have in common. And each year, NCBA honors 7 farms and ranches who demonstrate these values. Over the past several weeks, we've brought you the stories of all of this year's regional ESAP winners. And now we end our series with the Region 7 winner of the award. Cattleman to Cattleman reporter Scott Hoke takes us to South Dakota to visit the Slavek Ranch.
Slavek Ranch stretches across more than 13,000 acres of grassland in west central South Dakota. Bill Slavek grew up here and started his own operation in the late 1970s by purchasing land near his parents' ranch. Today, he manages Slavek Ranch with help from his wife Penny and son Bo.
We're running about 850 or 900 mother cows and approximately 300 yearling cattle. Probably 10% of our cows are registered Angus, and the rest of them have an Angus or Red Angus base with some Gelbvieh or Simmental influence mixed into them.
By improving genetics, Bill has been able to continually increase the quality of his cattle. In addition, the family realized early on that maximizing grazing opportunities would be key to their success.
Grass is basically what we live off. We always talk about how much the calves weigh when you sell them, or how many pounds of beef or whatever you raise, but I mean that all equates back to how much grass you grow.
It's just been something that's bred in us, I guess, so we want to care for the land. We want to acknowledge how important it is to us and how we need to keep it up and treat it right.
To protect the land and provide more forage for cattle, the Slavek family has returned over 800 acres of former cropland back to grass. In addition, they use a high-intensity grazing system that allows pastures to have longer periods of rest, which improves plant vigor.
The land is getting used, but it's getting a good long rest, and we're enabled to increase our carrying capacity that way, and to me it's just a no-brainer.
The cattle, just like with the buffalo back in the old days, they'd graze it off and then move to fresh pasture, and they graze it and move to fresh pasture, and they're fertilizing it all the time, and it's good for the ground to get ate off a little bit and then grow back. It's just like mowing your yard. You always mow your yard off.
The main thing I think is you never overgraze, so we don't have any erosion or stuff coming off of our prairie into the creeks, feeding away from the creeks, so there's no manure problems. I think it's just a lot of common sense, and do things right and respect the land and don't abuse it.
Water availability is essential to grazing management, so Slavek Ranch worked with NRCS to install more than 25 miles of pipeline and 85 water tanks. Bill also helped pioneer a program to install portable windbreaks that provide winter protection and allow changes in the seasonal use of their pastures.
You can't use a summer pasture in the middle of the winter if you don't have any winter protection in it, so we have these portable windbreaks, and we can set them up in our summer pasture, and if we don't get a real bad storm, if the cattle just need a little protection, they can get behind these portable windbreaks, and then when we rotate the cattle, we can just go in with the flatbed, load the portable windbreaks onto the flatbed, and we can rotate the windbreaks right with the cattle.
They were very instrumental in working with the Natural Resources Conservation Service in helping us develop a standard to implement V windbreaks and fabricated windbreaks throughout the state. They do a great job with their stewardship, and they set a good example for all to follow.
In the past, some of the rangeland here was dominated by undesirable plants. Controlling these invasive weeds is another way the Slavic family works to manage the health of their pastures.
Whether we're moving cows or fixing fence or whatever, we're looking for weeds. And I think this is the third year we've switched over to Milestone. And that's when we really started knowing we were making progress. Controlling your weeds is part of being a good environmentalist. And if you're not, I don't think you can claim you are an environmentalist.
Bill and Penny have also planted thousands of trees across their property. Together, all of their stewardship efforts have the benefit of providing high-quality wildlife habitat. With an eye toward every detail, the Slavic family works day in and day out to care for the land that they and their cattle depend on.
Oh, I love being part of the family operation. I know my grandpa was proud of me when I came back to do the place, and I hope eventually someday I have kids that want to take it over. I just love you do something different every day, and I just love that aspect of it.
I mean, if you care for something just like a child or your job or whatever, you're going to do the best thing you can for it. So stewardship is just loving the land, not hurting it, and trying to make a living and doing it right off the land. And I think if you do it right, it kind of rewards you back.
You know, I think we're on the right track and we're doing a lot of things right, but I think we've got a lot more to learn and we've got a lot more to do, but I'm comfortable and happy where we're at and that we're headed in the right direction.
To learn more about all of this year's region winners, just visit our website at cattlemantocattleman.org. The national winner will be announced during the 2013 Cattle Industry Annual Convention and NCBA Trade Show in Tampa, Florida.
Get your boots on the bay for the 2013 Annual Convention and NCBA Trade Show. Join me, J.D. Alexander, for Boots on the Bay as we attend important industry meetings and kick back for some fun with our fellow cattlemen and women at the Cattlemen's Beach Party featuring the Beach Boys. You won't want to miss the Hot Havana Nights after party with the Bellamy Brothers. For more information, visit beefusa.org. So pack up your boots. I'll see you in Tampa Bay.
These days, more cattlemen choose Draxxin to fight BRD than any other brand. Here's why.
It works. We have fewer repulls, and the ones that we do repull respond, and we have fewer chronics in the end.
To retreat anything it's a lot more expensive than using Draxxin as a first time.
And the evidence backs up what most cattlemen already know. Draxxin cuts retreats by 50%. So talk to your veterinarian and check the online calculator at Draxxin.com. You'll see why Draxxin should be your first choice to fight BRD.
Basically what it's allowed us to do with our operation is run more cattle through in a given period of time. It's just really been a good product to use.
Do not use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older. Do not use in calves to be processed for veal. Draxxin has a pre-slaughter withdrawal time of 18 days. Please visit Draxxin.com or call 1-888-DRAXXIN for more information.
Seasons change, but year in, year out, year round, it's Crystalix season. With specific supplements for weaning stress in fall. Protein for pre-calving in winter. Calving in spring, and minerals and fly control in summer. For low cost per head per day supplements, every season is Crystalix season.
We know who made that hitch. We know who cut the steel, who milled the ball, and who welded the seams. We know who tested, measured, and checked. We even know who thought the whole thing up. We're B&W, and we know your hitch. Because we don't make them halfway around the world. We make them all right here. B&W. Trusted.
It was one of those surreal moments in the cowboy's life. I was sitting at the cafe on a rainy morning, breakfasting with Rodney, when he asked if I'd ever tried the Breath of Fire Kundalini. I said, well, I didn't care for Italian food, but I do like jalapenos, speaking of Breath of Fire. Well, he asked me if he seemed taller. It's yoga, he said. the Fountain of Youth Kundalini Yoga Pranayama. Everybody's doing it back home. I can sing again. I can dance the Glen Ullin polka, touch my toes and see more clearly. I couldn't do this till I signed up for the Fountain of Youth Yoga. So this is an exercise program, I asked. No, it's much more. You just need to spend 15 minutes a day doing the special positions and breathing fire. Can you touch your toes with your nose? He asked me. Truth is, I said, I don't know if I'd want to, even if I could. My dog can reach a lot of places on himself that I wouldn't want to see up closer. Let me show you the easiest position. It's the corpse pose. Rodney lay down on the floor on his back with both his head and feet perpendicular to his body. Try and hold this position for 11 minutes. Looks to me, I said, if you could hold it for eternity, you'd be cheaper to bury. You'd fit in a shorter casket. One more. Let me show you one more. It'll change your life. Rodney stood and bent over, legs straight, arms outstretched, palms flat on the floor. He looked like an upside-down V. It's the Kundalini Archer pose. 3 minutes with long, deep breathing. What's he doing? Asked the deputy sheriff. Breath of fire? Well, what's he looking for? The Fountain of Youth. I think he's been drinking. The deputy spoke into his walkie-talkie. I'm down here at the cafe. We got another cowboy bent over, peering between his hind legs. I know. Just get the detox pen ready.
This is Baxter Black and Rodney from out there.
Thanks, Baxter, for helping us keep things in perspective. Well, that does it for this week's edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. We'll see you right back here next week on RFD TV.